Hi there. Back at home today, I'm going to do a little work on my trailer that involves swapping out an electrical cord. If you're familiar with these trailers, the electrical cord on a lot of them, new and old alike, you pull them out of the trailer through a little hatch. And that little door, it's a perfect place for rodent infestation or ants or spiders or beetles or any other kind of thing you can think of to just crawl up the wire and literally have an opening into your trailer. And so I'd like to do a conversion that I actually did last year on our vintage trailer. And if you ask me, I think it's a conversion that if you haven't done so, I think it should be done on every trailer. And this is the hole that I'm talking about on this trailer. It's this cover here. And these covers are, like I say, like this one is broken. It doesn't even clip down anymore. And when you've got your cord pulled out and you're plugged into the power pole at your site, you know, this is how it's closed. I mean, anything can go up through here and just run straight into your trailer. It's actually kind of a dumb setup. So I'm hoping that it's just a straight re and re. Although looking at this, it might not be. I'm gonna say the size of this hole is at least 3 inches. I haven't measured it. And I probably only need 2 1/4-ish for the other one, so it might be too large. So what actually might be necessary is that I have to make a plate first and then cut the appropriate size hole in the plate. But we'll find out. If you're curious what is used for a 30 amp cord in terms of size, it is a 10 gauge by 3 cord. 10 gauge, that's what they are. This is the re and re kit that came with it. I wonder, I'll measure that, or at least compare the size of this to the hole in the side of the trailer. You can see right there that the size of the existing hole in the trailer is larger than it needs to be for this type of a power cord plug-in. So I will need to make a plate, which this will then mount in. Which shouldn't be too difficult. It's just an extra step that I wasn't planning on doing. And I just have to find a suitable material to make that out of. I'm thinking aluminum. Piece of aluminum. It would be easy to make it out of a piece of plywood or something like that, but it needs to be impervious to weather, right? It can't be exposed. Plywood exposed is just gonna deteriorate rather quickly, and that won't work. So a piece of aluminum plating will do the job. I literally looked down and went, oh, hey, what's this? But that's not aluminum. It's a piece of, it's a busted off end of an old shovel. A square bladed shovel, and that's steel. So, not suitable. Now, also fortunately, is that I have a 2 7/8 inch hole saw that I purchased specifically for this purpose with my other trailer. So I have the correct size of hole saw in order to be able to put a proper sized hole in this plate that I am going to make. Let's just measure the size of the plate size that I need to make. You know what? I have some aluminum checker plate, and since there is already aluminum checker plate on the trailer, it would not look out of place using that right here. All right, decision made. That is exactly 5 inches. Yep, so I can make my plate 5 inches by 5 inches. I could even make it round, but I don't have a round 5 inch. I got a 4-inch hole saw, but I don't have a round 5. So I will make it 5 inches square, and yeah, that'll work well. This is that piece of checker plate that I'm talking about. It looks like it's almost, well, it's at least 3/16. Maybe a little heavier than I need it to be. I'm a little heavier than I need to be. Okay, there's my 5 by 5 square, but I think before I cut this out, I'm going to find center and put my hole through here, because it'll be a lot easier to do that when this plate is big like this. So now I gotta run back out to the trailer where I left my hole saw and grab that so I can make the hole. Ever doing something like this, just want to stress the importance of some kind of eye protection. Doing stuff like this, it's chucking little aluminum slivers and shavings all over the place. And yeah, so protect your eyes. And if it's too loud, protect your ears. That should go without saying, but a lot of us, we get caught up in stuff, and we're working on stuff and making stuff, and we skip these steps. And yeah, take it from me, who has a little bit of hearing loss in my right ear because I skipped too many of these steps when I was younger. Don't skip them. That came out nicely. And now I have this cool little aluminum disc. I'm making this cut with a disc grinder, but it's not something that I can film because this is a two-hander. I don't dare do this with one hand. I don't want to stutter. I don't want to twist. I don't want to accidentally break my cutting disc. I'm sure you get that. I will say though, is leaving this, cutting the hole first and then cutting this out afterwards was a good idea. I say this cleaned up pretty nice with the wire wheel, but I do want to make it look not homemade. So I'm going to just dress the edges a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. So now I have to align these 4 holes with 4 holes that I need to make here, and this will fit over here, and it will serve to actually center this in the hole, just like that actually. So now I need to get something to scrap those holes. All right, so there is our extra step completed. That probably took about an hour or so out of the process, but we are now back on track. So as far as drill bit sizes and whatnot that I used, I have no idea. I just picked ones that I thought were an appropriate size. The ones that are actually mounting the plug to this plate, I went with a smaller hole because the screw needs to bite into the aluminum plate. For the outside screws that are mounting the plate to the trailer, I went with a larger hole because the screw needs to bite into the trailer and pass through the mounting plate, if that makes sense. What I do want to use though, and make sure that I have, which I do, and you can see the package right here, is I've got a number 8 by 1 inch stainless steel screw. Stainless steel in this case is crucial, I think, because it's not going to corrode on me. I know the trailer wall is thicker than 1 inch. However, the Luan, which is underneath the phylon being the outer fiberglass skin, the Luan being the 3mm plywood that's underneath the fiberglass skin, I'm only dealing with a very thin, really, material that I'm biting into. So I don't need anything longer than this. What I do need to do though, and be very careful about, and I will show you this as I install it, is that I will not be screwing these in with my driver, at least not all the way. I might set them with the driver, but then the final bite will be done by hand, because you do not want to over tighten these. They just need to be tight enough to do the job. And the butyl tape that I have here will make sure everything is sealed. That way we get no water infiltration coming through any of this. Now that I know that I have everything on hand to go to work, I can start the process of actually disabling the existing plug. Because if I got stuck with lack of parts or lack of something at this point, now I'd be out of commission. I wouldn't be able to go camping and plug into anything. Cart before the horse. That's what we usually say. All right, there is the end of my power cord. And yeah, it's gotta be at least 25 feet. So this is the length of extension cord. Wait, what? You didn't know this was going to become an extension cord? Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to become when I'm done with it. My cord is fully pulled out, so I'm essentially going to be cutting it off right about here and wiring this onto the back of that plug. This is in my way right now, this flap. So let's just get rid of that. And I can start taking this apart. So what that will involve is undoing these screws. And then I'll probably have to get something to, oh yeah, see, this one has been over tightened because it is stripped right out. Anyway, I'll have to get something to pry this off because the butyl tape is got this stuck right to the trailer. Comes. All right. And you were out. So here's the wall of my trailer. Okay, not 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches. But you see what I'm saying? I've got this thin layer of, it's called Phylon, which is the fiberglass layer. And then only about a 3 mil layer of plywood underneath there. It's pretty thin. So that is why it is very easy to actually overturn and strip a screw in this. So now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to scrape this off. See, someone has actually used actual silicone here, which doesn't really seal very well. I have a much better product. I'll show you that in a moment when I get to it. But for the time being, I am going to clean all of this stuff off with some mineral spirits and a scraper. Be very careful not to scrape or scratch the outside of the trailer. Cleaned up rather nicely, wouldn't you say? I would. I'm curious to know what's inside there. I believe if I landmark this correctly, I'm looking at the underside of my bathtub. So let's take a look. Okay, 100% correct. What have we got going on here? I can see remnants of, looks like a wasp nest and mouse droppings. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. I have to turn this, and you may be looking upside down at this point. I don't know how I can orient the screen when I'm editing this. But yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying, and why a conversion like this is so important. Who wants wasp nests and mouse turds in their trailer, let alone the mice that come with those turds? You don't. So this is not a difficult conversion. I get that some of the stuff that I'm doing with making the plate and whatnot might be a little bit technical for some, particularly if you don't have things like an angle grinder or a hole saw or a bench vise. But pretty basic garage shop tools are all you need, and a little bit of creativity to make this work, which is why I think it's something that everyone should do. Well, I'm committed now. And before I splice the other end onto this cord,
get rid of this piece of show business and make sure I slip this waterproof boot over the end of here first, and you'll see why again later on. And on this particular boot, I can see this little doodaddy business here. They've stepped this so that you cut it off at the size needed. So what I need to do is compare that to my cable that's going to be going through that, and looks like I want to leave 2 steps. And if I need more, I can always go bigger. It's always better to start maybe smaller than you think you need, because that looks like a pretty tiny hole, and that's leaving me 1 step, 2 step, but I'll probably need to go take off 1 more. I'm just gonna go check it with the cable first. Yep, I need to go to the next one. Stuff like this, just let the blade do the cutting. Don't force it or you'll distort it, and then you'll end up with a goofy looking cut. Let the blade do the work. Now I think that should work. I'm gonna go check it again. And it did. This waterproof boot is over the cable tight, and so what this does is, once my plug end is on the end of here and I'm able to plug this into my trailer, this threaded ring here will engage with the actual plug itself, and I can screw this down tight and actually have a waterproof connection at the outside of the trailer. So in addition to insects, ants, beetles, wasps, as we've seen, mice getting in, I also have a waterproof connection now, which is very nice. Like, not usually a direction checker, but I am going to check the directions with this, because they probably have maybe like a strip gauge. Yeah, so this is what they're showing me, 3/5 of an inch. It's an odd way to say it. But anyway, what they're telling me is how much to leave stripped on the wire, both on the actually bare wire, the internal insulation, and the outer casing. So if I just match it up with that diagram, then everything should fit well on the back of the actual plug itself when I make my connections. Oh yeah, okay, so I can see that they say right here, a 2 7/8 hole saw, which I had, a 1/8 drill bit, which is what I used for my 4 small guys. Number 8 pan head stainless steel screws. Hey, that's what I've got right here. Cord size, 10 gauge minimum. That's what I have on the trailer. There's a better look at what I'm talking about. You can see where I need to trim the outer casing back to, and then strip the wires themselves. So we'll start with the outer casing. And I would say that when you are cutting this, look how thick that rubber casing is there. Just be careful how deep you cut. In fact, I like to make my first cut like this at a spot that I know is going to land between the wires, so I know I'm not going to cut into the insulation of the wire itself. But the rest of it here, it's almost scoring and ripping. You don't want to cut too deep, because yeah, you don't want to cut into the insulation around the wire. That insulation is important. It's there for a reason. It protects everything. So yeah, just be careful as you strip this. Might even be a good idea to leave yourself, rather than I left this much, you might even want to leave it this much, because it might take you a couple of times to get good at stripping this without cutting too deep. I've got the outer jacket off, and now I can strip the ends of these wires here. Green is my ground, black is my power, white is my neutral. On a 30 amp plug. It's different than on a 50. I'm gonna grab a vacuum and stick it in there and vacuum that junk out of there. I can't really control the end of it because I can't get my hand in there. But I don't know, if I wave it around enough, I might get some of it. I don't think I actually got that much, but even a little is better than none. And more importantly, this will prevent anything else from getting in there. I got a little of it, but getting right into that corner is difficult. I vacuumed out everything as best I can down in there. I've cleaned the surface. Next thing I need to do is this plate needs to go on before anything else does. And so I need to apply my butyl tape on the back of it, and you can see I've referenced the top so everything lines up the way I need it to line up. So let's go put some butyl tape on the back of here now. Another reason why referencing the top matters is because it actually matters how the tape is applied. I'll show you what I mean. If you think of it like trim around a window, this is the top, right? So you want this piece to span the whole length. That's better practice. You can see the seam right there, and then the side pieces come all the way to the bottom, and then the bottom piece is an infill piece down here. That's the best way to install this so that you can ensure that it's actually going to give you a 100% watertight seal, because you're not going to get water sneaking in through. If this was the top and these two seams didn't quite come together, there's a greater chance of water sneaking in like that. So you put the top piece all the way across. Make sense? Now that we've got this, we can go install it on the trailer. The fact that the back is now sticky is actually quite helpful, because it allows me to position it or reposition it as necessary, because I got to back up and take a look at this. Because I know that if I were to install this crooked, it would bother me for the rest of my life. So we will not install this crooked. Now, I'm pretty sure the trailer is sitting level. And that looks like that plate is also almost level. It's hard to tell because I can tell that that corner isn't perfectly square. I'm gonna go put my level on the bottom edge of the trailer, and then I'm gonna put it on the plate, and if those two match, then it might not be level, but it'll be true relative to the line of the trailer. So the bubble is just intersecting the line on the left. I am happy with that. To ensure that things don't move, I'm gonna drill a very small pilot hole in my top two right now. And then I can go ahead and mount things the rest of the way. And like I said, by hand. And also, don't expect to fully compress the butyl tape all in one shot. The amount of compression that the butyl tape could take, and it's going to depend on if it's a really warm day, it'll compress easier than if it's a cooler day. Today is a little bit cool, so I'm going to tighten these screws down. I'm going to help it by pressing on it. I will let it compress as much as it will allow me without pulling out the screws. That's the danger. You don't want to pull out the screws. I might come back in a couple hours and just snug them up a little bit more. And then when I'm done, I'm going to use some ProFlex and seal around the edge. Technically not necessary with butyl tape, but what I would like to create is I'd like to get rid of this little channel here where water would sit, whereas if I put some sealant here and down the sides, doesn't need it on the bottom, but if I put it here and on the sides, water will run off much better. And with the top two screws in, I can just drop two small pilot holes in the bottom now. That's all it takes. And FYI, I've decided to forego this strain relief cap. In some applications where this wire would be exposed on the back side, yes, I would recommend it, even though it's really kind of goofy as to how it actually does provide strain relief, because I'd have to put a 90-degree bend in this wire to make it so I can capture it underneath this little bar that has screws that are technically too short anyway to capture all of this. Because this goes into a completely inaccessible area, and these wires are all completely protected. The lugs are very easy to do up. The wires just slip in to the back and you tighten up the lugs. It's as simple as that. Just make sure you're fully seated and make sure you don't have too much stripped off so that you have bare wire showing through the top. And that's all you really need to worry about. It's pretty easy to make the connection. So I'm going to do that now. I'll need 2 hands, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. This is what it looks like when things are fully seated and tightened up. You want your wires to be about the same length. As long as you match up your white with your white, your green with your green, and your black with your black, you're good. There's no way you can make a mistake with the wiring as long as you match up the colors. Unless if you're colorblind. But I think if you were, you'd probably know. Yeah, so that is that. Now, you can see just by the orientation of the wires itself that this is actually upside down. Nothing I can do about that, and it's not installed incorrectly. It's just that's the way the wire came out of the hole. So I just have to figure out which puts the least amount of tension on it, turning it clockwise or counterclockwise. Install it. That seems to go fine either direction. Counterclockwise seemed a little easier, and so that is how I will be installing that. But before I screw this into place, I am going to do one final thing. I'm going to take this ProFlex sealant and apply a very thin bead of it around the inside of this rubber gasket before attaching this to the plate that I made. The reason being is this rubber gasket could get hard and dry. Over time it could fail. It might not fully compress over these little bumps here. It's not a perfect seal. It's probably a good seal that'll last for a little while, but I want to make it better, so I'm going to. And this product, you wouldn't use this like a die-core product or a self-leveling sealant on your roof, especially if your roof is like a rubber type roof. But this sticks to metal, it sticks to fiberglass, it sticks to many different products. It sticks very well. As far as instructions go, apply it to a clean, dry surface. It is cut the nozzle to a desired bead size. I want it small. Wipe off excess sealant with a dry disposable cloth. Use mineral spirits to clean tools. What does it say about tooling? If necessary, tool immediately with soapy water and mineral spirits and a tooling device. Okay, I am the tool. Or I should say my finger is the tool. And as much as I would have loved to have shown you a video of me applying it, well, that would have been too difficult. So I put it on. Now I'm going to put this in place, screw it down to the mounting plate, and then clean up the excess with my tool. Okay, that was unexpected. I'm using the same screws that I used previously. And yeah, I guess stainless steel screws aren't quite as strong as a regular screw. And the pilot hole that I drilled through the plate needs to be the next size up because the screw broke off in trying to screw it in. And now my plug is stuck there. And I need to get that off before I it's all gummy with sealant now, but I need to take this off so I can enlarge the pilot holes. Well, I managed to get this off without making too much of a mess of it. My first instinct was to take a hacksaw blade and try and cut it, and I actually started, but I started touching the side of my plate, and I went to all the work to try and make this plate look nice, and so I didn't want to mess that up. And so I went to plan B, which was to drill it out. And I was able to do that without messing up this hole too much. The problem with drilling it out is getting the drill bit to track on the end of the broken screw, right? Because it's not level, there's no pilot indentation, and it's so easy to wander and start chewing up the sides of the plastic because the plastic is soft. But now that I'm there, I should just be able to grab it with pliers and twist it out of there like that. I know it's not a self-tapping screw. I was hoping I didn't need to be, because any self-tapping screws that I have are not stainless steel. Stainless steel isn't going to work. And if I drill these out, see, they're already, like, it's not asking that much for the screw to bite into that hole. The hole is not that much smaller than the screw, so it's not asking that much. I think we'll go with a self-tapping screw. They will be protected from the weather because they are underneath this cap, so they're not exposed. And in that way, I'm not going to run into this, because this sucked. Well, there it is. It is done. And at the end of the day, I did have to fight with it a little bit more than originally planned. But mission accomplished nonetheless. And I don't know if you can see it because the stuff is crystal clear. But I put a bead of the ProFlex right along the top lip there, basically acting like a piece of flashing. I tooled it with my finger. I dipped my finger in paint thinner, mineral spirits first, and then I just give it a very light little tooling so it has a slope to it. That'll just prevent any water from sitting in there for a prolonged period of time. Anything that comes will just shed. And you can see a little bit of squish out on the side here. That doesn't matter at all. That tells me that it's where it needs to be. But I did put a little bead of sealant on the rubber gasket as well. So this is sealed up completely. I will never have any water intrusion at this point. And it is now impossible for rodents, wasps, ants, beetles, spiders, anything to be able to get into the trailer through that plug the way they could before. Now the only thing left to do is to take this connector, this twist lock connector, which plugs into the plug at the back of the trailer now, and make that the new end for my power cord for my trailer, and I'm done.
So let's just do that really quickly and wrap this video up.
And that just ensures that the orientation of the wires at this end of the cable are the same as the orientation of the wires at that end of the cable. Make sense? Something that's actually not intuitive, and you might not think about it unless you've done this before, is that these wires are all pretty thick. And so you kind of got to stick them all in their lugs at the same time. If you do it all at the same time, you get them all in the way I've got them here. I'm holding it down so they don't pull out, and now I can tighten up the lugs. Just like that. And again, double check your colors to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, so that the end of the cord on this end matches the end that's going into the trailer. It's just a matter of reassembly. And lastly, the retention ring itself. If you've assembled everything in the correct order, you will be able to slip this waterproof boot over top of your plug.
I'm not even joking when I say that getting this boot over top of the end of the plug was a bigger fight than the previous one. That was hard, but it's on, and let's go try it out. So I say let's go try it out, but I don't know if I'm gonna like this. So I've got the threaded ring on the end of here now. This is what it is supposed to look like. But this ring does not spin freely on this yellow boot. It's on there so tight that once I lock the actual cord in place, it might be difficult to actually tighten up this ring. Now, this wasn't meant to be a product review or anything, but as far as this is concerned, the plug, the actual twist lock plug, is great. No problems with that at all. But I don't know about this boot business.
There's a bug on there already. You see, that bug could not get in. You saw that, right? That little bug there? Ha! He was thwarted. So you can see the twist lock business. You can tell which goes where by the orientation of things. You got the little L blade here, and you got a little L blade there. So that's simple. That goes like that. It pushes in and locks in place. So that cord is now in there. It can't come out. Let me see if I can get this ring on. I don't know. It's going on. But when you're fighting with it like this, it would be fairly easy to cross thread it, I would think. Like, that's on. Okay, so it does work. I guess you wouldn't want it loose, but it's pretty tight. I think maybe a couple drops of oil down into here might actually... But I guess insofar as doing the job that it is intended to do, it does it. I just wish that this would turn a little easier, but maybe in time it will wear in.
Well, project complete. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I sure did. Have a great day.